Hi guys, we finally have a new release of a 2020 movie. Is it any good? Let's go and see. So the review today is going to be on Deep Blue Sea, which is of course the third movie in the Deep Blue Sea franchise, I guess. The first movie, Deep Blue Sea, was made in 1999 and was, I'd say, a big success. Even if not everyone loved it, it wasn't as serious as something as Jaws. It is held as an enjoyable shark movie. So essentially what Deep Blue Sea 3 is about is a team spending their third summer on a man-made island called Little Happy. It's studying the effect of climate change on the great white sharks who come to the nearby nursery every year to give birth. Their peaceful life is disrupted when a scientific team led by marine biologist Richard show up looking for 3 bull sharks who we soon learn aren't just any bull sharks. Once again, a bizarre plot, but is it any good? Let's see in my review. So as you know, if a movie is a huge success, there normally tends to be a franchise created out of it, or at least a sequel. And as I mentioned in the intro, Deep Blue Sea was released in 1999. Deep Blue Sea 2 was released in 2018. So for a long time it didn't seem like we'll be getting any sequels, but now we've suddenly got 2 in 2 years. Judging off what Deep Blue Sea 2 was like, no one was asking for a third movie and everyone was dreading watching it and seeing how bad it would be. But many people, me included, was pleasantly surprised by this movie. As I said, we didn't ask for it, but when we saw it was coming, we just expected the worst things. But I must say, it is a decent follow-up to the original Deep Blue Sea. Now, with many movies, especially these kind of movies, you don't expect any of the sequels to be better than the original. And I'm not saying this one is better, but it is just below par, but yet still enjoyable. A lot of fun can be had with this, just like many movies when you see people getting killed by certain animals. One thing we hadn't seen in the other movies is actually competition with fellow humans. You know, we've seen disagreements or someone doing something behind the other's back. We haven't seen 2 separate sets of humans fighting it out for whatever their goal is, and we see it in this movie, so it's just nice to change it up, especially since the second movie was a rehash of the first movie. Now, I believe this movie had a budget of about 5 million, so you know, third movie in a franchise after the second one was abysmal. Straight on VOD with a $5 million budget, you're not expecting much. And I think because I set my standards so low going into this is why I'm pleasantly surprised, but they actually use the budget very, very well. I know you'd expect the special effects to be better nowadays than in 1999, but as I said, this movie had a budget of 5 million, but I think the original had a budget of 40 million. The special effects in this movie were some of the best that I've seen in this franchise. You know, they didn't always have the sharks on screen, but when they did, it was used efficiently, and most of it looked pretty realistic, I must admit. And unlike the first one, this one isn't shot in a way which feels like it's going straight to VOD. There is some nice shots, especially underwater. You get to see life underwater, you get to see some action underwater. It just looks all very nice, and as I said, it's shot very well. But by no means is this movie perfect. It has some very, very poor acting. Like, sometimes it was very painful to watch. It had you cringing at some of the dialogue, which was also very poor, but some of the things these actors had to say, I can only imagine that they were cringing as well, unless their paycheck was looking kind of nice. I also just had such a stereotypical villain who's gone mad for money and to prove stuff in the world of science. Just so stereotypical and over-exaggerated, but I guess it fits nicely into this movie as it is over the top. But surprisingly, one of the bigger things I had a problem with is the amount of kills and how they have done it. You know, obviously they're not going to have a huge budget to pull out all these CGI shark kills, but all the kills we actually see from the sharks are either done off screen or is when they jump out of the water for comic relief. You know, you don't actually see any kills on screen, I don't think, where the shark doesn't jump out of the water or isn't on screen. And going back to the kills, I said, you know, someone dies and then the characters are in shock for about approximately 30 seconds and then they move on and don't seem bothered at all. There's no shock or trauma past the immediate death of a friend or whatever. And as I was saying, the characters, all of them are cliche. You know, the sciencey one, there's the brave antagonist, the computer nerd or whatever, you know. some of the cliches, not just from movies in general, but even earlier on in this franchise. Yeah, they interact with each other, which shows they are close or they are friends or whatever. Us as the audience doesn't really care about what happens to them, and if they are killed, we don't really mind. It's just not going to impact us at all. And I get, in other shark movies or whatever, the characters have to dive into the water, whether it is to untangle something, save a friend or whatever. But in this movie, they just seem like they're looking for an excuse to dive into the water, which is infested with these mutant sharks or whatever. Not mutant, but enhanced. It's like every 10 minutes or so, a character dives in and all the other characters are like, no, don't do it. And then that person is the hero or they end up dying. You want to avoid the water, and I know some things you have to get done, but there are other ways, or you could have discussed it, Even with moments like that, they don't really create any tension. There was actually one bit right at the end, maybe it was a claustrophobia that made it tense for me, but that was about it. There wasn't any tension at all. Now, I already mentioned this in the intro, but Deep Blue Sea 3 isn't better than the original, which was made about 21 years ago. To have to wait so long for some more sequels, which have been very disappointed. I can't imagine many people were excited waiting for them or wasn't too bothered about the duration or whatever, but it was kind of disappointing. After the abysmal Deep Blue Sea 2, Deep Blue Sea takes a new approach to things, does things differently, and therefore makes for a fresher watch and not just a rehash of the original movie. It still does have elements like that, but that's understandable as they're trying to keep some of them connected. In terms of rating, I'm going to give Deep Blue Sea 3 a 5 out of 10, which for these type of movies, it's an average score, I'd say. By no means is it an amazing movie. It's one of those movies where you switch off your brain and you just enjoy it, or you're just trying to fall asleep to something or get a laugh at how silly things can be. But yeah, by no means is it intended to be an Oscar winner or anything, but it was enjoyable, I must admit, although not a great movie. I would recommend, if you are looking for something with sharks and just something dumb but yet still enjoyable, not so bad that it keeps you up at night like Deep Blue Sea 2. Yeah, this is still an enjoyable watch. Otherwise, if you're looking for a good movie, do not watch this one, but it's all up to you. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you want to see some more Deep Blue Sea videos, or I guess one more video, tune in soon. I should be releasing a Deep Blue Sea ranking now that there are 3 movies in the franchise, so keep your eyes peeled for that if you're interested. Please like and subscribe. I really appreciate that. I really want to hit 100 subscribers as soon as possible. Yeah, please let me know in the comments what you thought of Deep Blue Sea 3 and if you'd want a 4th one. But yeah, once again, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.